Welcome to PastUnboxed Audio Book, where we take knowledge out of the box, unfold its hidden layers, and turn it into something you can carry for life. Let me ask you something. Have you ever read an entire chapter of a book, only to realize you can't recall a single important point? Or maybe you've spent hours studying for an exam, but a week later, it's like your brain hit delete? If that's happened to you, it's not because you're bad at remembering. It's because no one ever taught you how memory really works. Today, we're going to explore the science, the secrets, and the strategies of learning so effectively that you'll remember it for months, years, even decades. These are methods used by memory champions, top students, and lifelong learners, and backed by research from leading neuroscientists and psychologists. By the end of this journey, you'll walk away with a personal blueprint for memory mastery, whether you're reading a book, preparing for a big exam, or learning a completely new skill. Let's begin. The first key, understanding your memory blueprint. Imagine your brain as a massive city. Streets are the connections between your thoughts. Buildings are pieces of information, and bridges are the links that allow you to travel from one idea to another. Memory isn't a fixed library. It's a living, evolving city that grows, rearranges, and strengthens over time. The 3 stages of memory. Encoding. This is when new information enters your brain. Think of it as planting a seed. The quality of this step determines how well you'll remember it later. Storage. This is when your brain nurtures and protects that seed, building connections around it. Retrieval. This is when you harvest that memory, bringing it into conscious awareness. The hippocampus, a small seahorse-shaped part of your brain, acts like a librarian, deciding which seeds to keep and which to discard. Why forgetting is your friend. Here's something that feels counterintuitive. Forgetting actually helps you learn. When a memory starts to fade, recalling it requires more mental effort, and that extra work makes the connection stronger. Psychologist Robert Bjork calls this desirable difficulty. The struggle is what makes learning stick. Memory is the residue of thought. Daniel Willingham. Light bulb exercise. After learning something new today, wait a few hours and then try to recall it without looking at your notes. You'll feel the strain, but that's your brain growing stronger. The second key, the power of spaced repetition. Let's talk about a mistake almost everyone makes: cramming. Cramming feels productive. You're immersed, you're focused, but your brain treats most of that information like short-term junk mail. The Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. In the 1880s, Hermann Ebbinghaus discovered that without review, we forget over 50% of what we learn within a day. But here's the good news. Every time you revisit information before you forget entirely, the curve flattens, meaning you remember more for longer. This is spaced repetition, reviewing material at gradually increasing intervals. For example, review right after learning, review 1 day later, review 3 days later, review 7 days later, review 2 weeks later, review 1 month later. Each review rebuilds the neural pathway, making it more durable. With each repetition, forgetting is postponed. Hermann Ebbinghaus. Light bulb exercise. Create a simple spaced repetition schedule for your next book or study topic. Write on paper, or use an app like Anki to automate it. The third key, active recall, the brain's favorite workout. Let's bust one of the biggest myths in learning. Rereading equals remembering. When you reread, your brain gets comfortable, too comfortable. You feel like you know the material, but what you're really experiencing is familiarity, not mastery. Active recall changes that. It forces you to retrieve information without looking at the answer. The mental equivalent of lifting a heavy weight. The Feynman technique is one of the best ways to do this. Write down the concept you want to learn. Explain it in the simplest words possible, as if teaching a 12-year-old. Spot the gaps in your explanation. Review the source material and refine your understanding. Light bulb exercise. Close your book after reading a section and try to summarize it in 3 bullet points without looking back. The fourth key, multi-sensory learning. The more senses you involve, the more hooks you create for your memory. Reading a book? Say the key points aloud. Studying a diagram? Redraw it in your own style. Learning a historical event? Listen to a podcast while looking at a visual timeline. Brain scans show that multi-sensory input activates multiple neural pathways, which means more retrieval routes when you need that memory later. The more ways you think about a piece of information, the more securely you'll remember it. Gyon Medina. Light bulb exercise. Take one topic you're learning and represent it in 3 different formats: a diagram, a spoken summary, and a written explanation. The fifth key, turning knowledge into stories. We humans are storytelling creatures. Our ancestors didn't memorize lists. They remembered epic tales. Stories provide context, emotion, and sequence, which are like glue for the brain. If you need to remember a set of facts, create a narrative that connects them. For example, if you're learning the periodic table, imagine each element as a character in a strange adventure. Stories are the single most powerful tool in a leader's toolkit. Howard Gardner. Light bulb exercise. Take something you're learning today and turn it into a 2-minute mini-story with a beginning, middle, and end. The sixth key, lifestyle as a memory multiplier. You can have the best study techniques in the world, but if your lifestyle sabotages your brain, your memory will suffer. Sleep. Deep sleep is when your brain consolidates memories. Aim for 7 to 9 hours. Nutrition. Eat brain-friendly foods like salmon, walnuts, blueberries, and leafy greens. Exercise. Just 20 minutes of physical activity increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which boosts memory. Stress management. Chronic stress releases cortisol, which damages the hippocampus over time. Sleep is the single most effective thing we can do to reset our brain and body health each day. Matthew Walker. Light bulb exercise. Before your next learning session, go for a 10-minute brisk walk and drink a glass of water. Notice the difference in focus. The seventh key, the art of teaching to learn. Teaching forces you to organize your knowledge, identify gaps, and simplify concepts, all of which strengthen memory. Find a learning buddy, start a blog, or even record short explanations for yourself. The act of teaching transforms passive knowledge into active mastery. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Albert Einstein. Light bulb exercise. After studying, spend 5 minutes explaining the concept to an imaginary class. The eighth key, building your personalized memory system. The best learners aren't tied to one method. They adapt. Your personalized memory system might combine spaced repetition for review, active recall for mastery, storytelling for context, multi-sensory learning for strong connections, lifestyle optimization for mental clarity. Track what works, refine, improve. Closing, the call to action. You now have the keys to unlock your memory and make learning a superpower. This isn't about being gifted. It's about using the right tools at the right time in the right way. So here's your challenge. Choose one key from today's episode and start using it today. Watch how your recall changes in a week, then add another key. Your memory is not fixed. It's a living skill, and you have the power to shape it. If this episode helped you, subscribe to PastUnboxed Audio Book, hit the notification bell, and share this with a friend who loves learning as much as you do. And remember, the best time to start mastering your memory was yesterday. The second best time is now.